Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and today we are delighted to have Peter Brennan from the Orange County Business Journal, executive editor. What a wonderful man and what a wonderful contribution I know he's going to make on today's show. Peter, would you share with our audience kind of your personal and professional journey, catching them up on life and the things you've done? You've got a pretty spectacular background. It's not just in journalism. There's a lot of things that have gone on in your world, and I think our group would be interested to hear.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words. I consider myself a walking oxymoron, which means I've been a journalist for more than 40 years. And so to make the 30-second elevator speech in 2 minutes, let me go ahead. Started out in San Francisco, went to Venezuela for a couple of years, came back, got fired at the Stockton Record, and then decided I wanted to spend more time in Latin America to understand it. So I went back there and covered a whole bunch of things. So I was in Costa Rica, covered the invasion of Panama, the Civil War in Nicaragua, the Civil War in El Salvador, Guatemala, and the elections of the Violeta Chamorro in 1990. And then I was on my way to cover the next Civil War because there's a whole bunch of journalists that cover civil wars, and that's how you get on the front page of America's newspapers and America's media. And so I was looking around and said, okay, what's the next Civil War going on? And I thought I'd go to Peru, but Peru is much more dangerous than Central America, if you can believe that. I mean, the Shining Path basically killed journalists, and whereas the rebels in Central America did not. So, I heard of one journalist who was a freelancer, and he was killed. He was an American freelancer, and he was killed because he had short hair. So the rebels thought he was with the CIA. So it gives you how nutty things are. So I at that time I met a Costa Rican woman, and I thought, well, she's far more interesting than the Civil War in Peru. And so I decided to stay in Costa Rica, and I shifted over to covering business. So I've been covering business for 30 years now. Then in 19, I was I did a lot of fun things in Costa Rica, and I was on somebody's Rolodex here in the U.S. because every time a big event happened in Central America, they would call me up from CNN, BBC, CBC, NBC, everybody. And, when you look at the newscasts in the old days, they would have a picture of a map and a voice speaking on the other end. And that was me. And so then in 96, I was offered a Kiplinger Fellowship at the Ohio State University. So they basically paid you to get a master's degree in journalism. So I thought that was pretty fun. And my wife said, get me out of Ohio, because that's not enough sunshine. Southern California looks pretty nice. So we came here, and we've been here ever since. I started at the Orange County Business Journal in the late 90s and was working there for 3 years. And then I left to take a 15-year vacation at Bloomberg News. And so I was covering Wall Street and the like, and my stories and headlines, as everybody on Wall Street knows, the headlines is what moved the stock more than the stories do. And so, my bonuses were, if I could move the stock, my bonuses went up because that meant, we were paid attention to. And people who bought the Bloomberg service, basically traders, as you know, want to know the information before everyone else does. And if you know the information before everyone else does, you have an edge, over the other guy on the other end who's selling or buying. And so I was at Bloomberg, and then, they had a round of layoffs, and I was caught up in that, about 400 employees, 400 journalists. And so Richard Reisman, the publisher here, eventually offered me said, we want to come back. And one thing led to another, and he made me a living wage, as they say. And so came back, and now I'm the editor in chief. Who would have thunk it? And so, so I've been here, a journalist for 40 years. And one of the dirty little secrets of journalism is that it's so low paying. By the time you're in your late 30s or early 40s, a lot of journalists who finally figure things out are leaving the profession because they go into PR, they go into teaching, or they go somewhere else. And so what you have, particularly nowadays, are a whole bunch of journalists who are in their mid-20s and mid-30s, and they think they know things, but they don't. And so, I'm much smarter now than I was 20 years ago, and I'm sure all of us are, because you learn along the way. And so one of the sad parts about journalism is that all that skill and all that talent has gone away. So anyway,
yeah, it's a shame. So you're at a minimum bilingual with all that
yes.
work. I would have thought so.
Yes. Sí, como no.
And so how was the transition from watching and reporting on battles and civil wars to transitioning to the Business Journal, and then I think more naturally to Bloomberg from a business journal? Well, that had to be a pretty interesting transition.
It was, and it gives you a realization that when you are covering wars and riots and earthquakes and dangerous situations, you make a wrong move. I had a rifle put in my back by accident, by a young soldier. Most of these soldiers in Latin America and in the third world are teenagers, basically. And so you hope they're well trained, but sometimes they won't be, and they shoot and the like. And so you learn to really keep your head up on a swivel and look around, and you learn what's really important in life. I mean, here at the covering business is much less dangerous than covering wars. I don't have any executives coming at me with guns and stuff. So it's in that way it's kind of relief. And also in covering regular journalism, you get a lot of weird hours, like the politicians. The politicians work long into the evenings and on weekends as well. And as a business journalist, you get more or less business hours. So that's much nicer, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's not a dirty little secret. That's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely a good thing. So
That's a good thing. So we're here to talk about integrity and how it plays a role. And maybe you can share with us an example of how integrity has helped and benefited you in your own professional and personal lives and the application of integrity.
um, how would I say? There are so many examples, and one of the things that I do is, as a journalist, people are legitimately nervous around me. They're scared, and my wife has seen that firsthand. She saw some guy shaking, and when he was getting near me or about to talk to me. And the thing I learned, particularly at Bloomberg, is that if you make an error in your story, you confess to it, you correct it immediately, and that will enhance your reputation. And if you made an error and you didn't correct it, you were fired. I saw people who were fired for I saw an editor who was fired for sending the wrong headline, and so in at Bloomberg, I really learned that we corrected everything. I mean, everything, every little typo, and it had to go be corrected. And so what that does is it forces you to be correct from the get-go and pay attention to it. And at Bloomberg at that time, I think we were charging around, I want to say $1,800 per terminal per month, and Reuters was charging $600. That was our competition. And word got out. Reuters salespeople were asking these customers, why are you paying so much more for these terminals where we're providing the same information? And the users of these terminals, who were traders on Wall Street, said, because Bloomberg's more honest when it makes mistakes. They correct their mistakes, and so and that's worth a lot to us. So when they send out stories, we know it's the correct story. It's not going to be correct, and more often than not. And so that was a lesson to me in the importance of being honest and being and getting out there and telling the truth and it being profitable at the same time. Because one of the things that the news media won't tell you about is the competition among itself. When Bloomberg News started in early 90s, the financial services, we basically started at zero. And I say we, I mean, I was there. And now it's at, I want to say 35 or 40% of the market is Bloomberg. And Reuters has around 20 or 25%. I haven't checked the recent numbers. And Dow Jones, which used to own everything, is now below 5%. But they will never tell you that. And so, honestly, integrity really helped when I was at Bloomberg. It really helped Bloomberg. It helped the brand. When Bloomberg printed it or published it, it was accurate for the most part. And if they made a mistake, they would correct it quickly. And they wouldn't correct it on the slide, because what happens nowadays is you publish something on the internet and it gets wrong. And so you just update it and take out the erroneous material. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's just misleading. You got something wrong and you don't admit it. I mean, you look at the New York Times, which is was the so to speak the Bible for the American media for so many years, and in the last 10 years they've gotten so many stories, major stories wrong, and they haven't retracted those, and so that their reputation has gone downhill. I mean, half the population is Republican or conservative, and they don't trust the New York Times worth a damn, and
Yeah.
that didn't used to be the case 30 or 40 years ago. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on something I often ask our business professionals about how integrity impacts customer loyalty, and you have told us by example that it has strengthened their market share
Yes.
by having
Yes.
that loyalty, or by having the integrity. It does attract that loyal audience that believes in what you're saying.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of the things about journalism is changing so much nowadays. It used to be you had to be accuracy was the holy grail. You wanted to be as accurate as possible because you wanted people to believe what you said so they could react to it. And if you're inaccurate, just imagine this: if you're inaccurate and other people believe what you say, and then you down the road they find out you're wrong, they won't believe you anymore. So they won't read your product, they won't use it, and so um, accuracy is so important, and is a key part of integrity, and uh, it is in truth what I think is what people want, and is accuracy. Even if it's bad news, you want to know about it. I mean, if there's a storm coming, you want to know about it. You don't want to hear there's sunshine for the next two years or something. So um, nowadays there are a lot of people in journalism, particularly the young kids, who think it's their mission to improve society rather than tell society what's happening and the like. And so they couch their stories in that way. And I think that's the wrong method to go in the long run. I mean, you want if you believe something and you're being told again and again and again that this is the truth, and then you find out it's not the truth, you look at that person and you who told you that, and you discount anything they say going forward. Right. So that's the importance of accuracy, and it's a key part of integrity.
Yes. Yeah. You have folks that you obviously that work below you there as executive editors. How's your own personal definition of integrity influence your leadership style?
I expect people to be honest with me, to be accurate, to say I made a mistake here, to correct it. And if they hide it, that's not good, and I'll find out about it. And if they make a mistake, we're all humans. It's part of journalism. When you write a 1,000-word story, I calculated it one time. There are 250,000 ways to make a mistake in that story, and it's just amazing we don't make more mistakes. So. Um, they all know they can approach me when they make mistakes, and we'll discuss ideas, and I won't yell at them. And there are other newsrooms where we had an editor here recently who said it's amazing no one yells in this newsroom. And I'm like, why would they yell? Because you chose the wrong verb? Gee whiz, what's that? There are a lot of ways to make it. And I have a bunch of young reporters, and I've told them I'm 65 now, and I've told them I will teach you everything I know. So I will make you look as good as I possibly can. And they like that. They want to be good reporters. They want to be good writers and good business journalists going forward. And so I'm giving them the skill set I've learned over the years.
Yes, yeah, passing the baton, that takes integrity to be able to pass on the baton and not worry that you're creating your competition.
At this stage, anybody, if they will, I hope they'll be able to take over my job when I'm
Right?
done. Yeah, and I told our publisher, I'll be 2 more years here and then I'm gone. He says, oh, why not 3 more years? I was originally thinking 5 more years till I'm 70, but then I'm thinking, I better enjoy life a little bit more, get out there. But I'm enjoying myself pretty much now. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you maybe in a personal example or a professional example where you saw the counterparty conduct themselves with integrity when integrity might have been challenging to hold to that precept?
Um, when you say counterparty, you mean my competition, or would you
No,
say?
someone you encountered or on your own where you were faced with a difficult situation and you had to hold to and you held to integrity despite maybe the temptations otherwise.
Well, I remember I had a fender bender scratch in a parking lot, and I felt bad about it, and so I left a note for the person, and it ended up costing me $500 or $600, but it's well worth it. So if
Tell me, there's something I want to add on to that, but tell me why it's well worth it, because that's not easily translated. It's well worth it. I know what you mean, but what I
mm.
want to hear you say what you mean.
um, it makes you feel better about yourself. If you're doing crappy things, you're gonna feel crappy. And so if you do the right thing, you'll feel much better in my view. And that's how I look at it. So
Yeah, it's been a while since someone on this show has said anything about this, but this was one of those things, integrity, honesty, transparency, accountability, consistency, sustainability, but doing things right when no one's looking and
yeah,
doing the
yeah.
right thing. That's
That's a really great way to put it. I mean, in the bathroom I see tissues lying on the floor, and I usually pick it up because it just does bother me. And I know the janitor comes in there, and I hate for the janitor to come in and see real messy stuff. It just bothers me. So
yeah, that's yeah, doing the right things when no one's looking. And it's
you know, it it, it took me a. I think it was my mother told me things, and when you're a teenager, you go, yeah, 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 whatever, but it rings true now. Is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you know, and that is so true. And so I always think about that, and I think about I look at people, and most I really don't make enemies with anybody. And because I think it's a waste of time, and I think most people are good people, and the people I really really like are those who are trying. Even though they might not be successful, if they're trying, I give them a lot of benefit of the doubt. If
right.
they've given up, and they become drunks or drug addicts, I feel sorry for them actually. And so
Yes.
otherwise, the people who are really trying, and even though they might not consider themselves successful, somebody in this world loves them, and I always remember that.
I can tell that comes from your upbringing, your mother. She was probably a powerful influence. For you to be picking up the
She was.
tissues, you remind me of the Boy Scout motto: "Leave things better than you found them."
Oh, that's well said. I was an Eagle Scout, so I
Then
did
you
enjoy that.
know,
So
yes, you know all too well.
yeah.
I always like to ask our guests a situation where they saw in an interaction where the lack of integrity had its negative consequences. Is there a story that comes to mind and an example?
Um, I okay. This is a story from Bloomberg that I heard. I didn't see it personally, but I heard about it, and it was told to all of us. There were these two reporters in the newsroom, and they were gossiping on their in their chat box, not talking to each other. This is typical Bloomberg. You can be sitting next to each other and you're messaging each other. So they're in their chat box talking about each other, and they were talking about a female reporter nearby or something. And so because it was chat box, a female reporter couldn't hear it or anything. And then they kind of forgot about it, and they all went out to lunch. And then someone saw their comments on the chat box, and so both those reporters were fired, and so that didn't work out well for them. So I like to say I myself, I never write anything that my mother would disapprove of, that she would be embarrassed to read. And so, in any email, any Twitter post, anything on LinkedIn, anything on Facebook, I look at it and it might be controversial, but I can back it up. But it's never insulting. It's never ad hominem. It's never meant to harm somebody and the like. So
What a great yardstick by which to measure and to line up our communication, right? Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have to keep that in mind. My mom is someone I admired tremendously as well. I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
you did with your mom, and yeah, I don't know that I wrote every communication out. I think about it over my lifetime that my mom would have been proud of. But that's going to be a yardstick going forward for sure. Uh, there's young in our audience. There's some young folks, aspiring entrepreneurs, probably aspiring journalists, all different professions. When we, kind of closing this conversation, what would you share with these younger folks about the application of integrity in their personal and professional lives? How could you help them steer their career forward?
Well, I remember when I joined Bloomberg, I read the autobiography of Michael Bloomberg. And always know who you're going to be working for. Always know what they want, what they're like. And one thing he said in his book is your reputation is your most important asset. And I thought to myself, reputation, what does he care? He's a billionaire. He can just say whatever he wants. Well, the truth is, I've learned that reputation is all important because once you have it, people will do things with you. I mean, we have a system of laws here where if something goes wrong, you can go to court, you can sue each other and the like. But if you become known as a person who would rather go to court than settle something and keep your word, then your reputation will be around, will go around. And so if always guard your reputation, guard it safely, and like I said, don't write something that your mother would be embarrassed about, you know, and always if you say you're going to do something, do it, because I mean it's pretty simple actually. So
Yes, my recent guest, we were talking about accountability, and if do what
hmm
you say you're going to do, and make sure you finish what you start.
and on Wall Street, there's a great saying: always under promise and over deliver. And
Yeah,
those stocks will do really well. If you over promise and under deliver, your stock won't do so well.
no, to go terribly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been a delight. I can't believe we've spent this time. We're coming to the end. I'm wondering if you'd be kind enough to share with our audience, Peter, if they want to get in touch with you, the Business Journal, or anything. How do they go about that? What's the best way to do that?
Well, the business journal is ocbj.com. That's Orange County Business Journal, the acronym.com. And we are behind a paywall. And so we appreciate all our subscribers. It could be about $60 a year or something. It's about $1 an issue or thereabouts. And so people can always email me at Brennan at ocbj.com. I usually respond. We are going to be we're doing a lot of fun things here, and I think our articles are among the funnest. And we cover Orange County, which has an economy the size of Finland, and basically we are it. And so if you have a fun or interesting story, just email me and I'll talk about it. I'll take a look. We're always looking for the next Palmer Luckey. Remember, I mean, he took his company Anduril, is now valued at $14 billion. What a great story. Just a great
Yeah.
story. And it
Yes.
was 30 years ago, it was Henry Samueli and Henry Nicholas who started Broadcom. And what a great story that is. And so
Yes.
we have a lot of people who are quite successful in this county. Donald Brennan, the richest real estate magnate in the United States, is over in Fashion Island. We have Bill Gross, the bond king over in Laguna Beach, who writes for us every so often. And the list goes on, but they all started somewhere. And we're looking for, the people who are starting who are going to make it. And we're, we want to tell those stories.
Yeah, and this show is dedicated primarily to the professionals and the individuals here in Orange County. and trying to get the word out into this community that already exudes integrity with the people you just mentioned, a quality group of individuals, real leaders and real magnets in terms of their successes, for sure. Would you, and I should have thought to digress earlier. I know where we're going to wrap up, but the business journal is flourishing and it's still, it's in print as well as digital. Would you speak to that success and how that's happening for you?
Um, well, if I may go back to the 90s, because I watched this in real time, and I used to cover tech for Bloomberg, so I followed it rather closely. What happened in the 90s was when the internet came along, everybody got excited about it, and we were urged by the techies, the media was, put your stories online and give it away for free, and you'll collect money by the clicks and the advertisements that show up on the side. And so you had the late 90s and early 90s, and you can see the revenue from the online advertising go up, up, up. And then Google came along and Facebook came along, and all of a sudden they started taking the revenue and went down, 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 down for the regular media. And so what our publisher was very smart, Richard Reisman, and he said, he's not going to give our stories away for free. If you want to read them, you have to read them right next to our big, beautiful advertisements, and the advertisers like that. And the advertisers nowadays, they like advertising in our publication because everybody who's a top level executive in the county reads us, and I know that because they told me. I mean, we're talking serious people. Anybody you think of as a serious executive in this county reads our publication, and so the people who advertise with us, like the City of Hope or Hogue or Lugano Diamonds, they know they're reaching really high class executives. And to give you an example, we print 15,000 each week, papers every week, and we estimate we have 2 to 3 readers per publication. So that's about 40 to 60,000, 40 to about 30 to 45,000 readers a week, which makes sense because we have a working population of 1.7 million. So basically, 1 in every 30 employees in the county is reading us, and that makes. And they're like, you can count their executives and so they want to know who's who. I mean, if there are people who still don't know who Palmer Luckey is, and if you don't know who Palmer Luckey is, you're out in the blue. But our readers know who Palmer Luckey is. Our readers know who Henry Samueli is. Our readers know who Donald Brennan is, and the like. And so they want. If you run into these people are running around. Mark Cuban hangs out in Laguna Beach, and he's made it known that if you see him, say hello. Our readers know that, and so our executives, our readers want to know what's happening in the business community. I mean, you don't want to be the guy who's still selling horse whips when the car comes along, right?
Right.
So in the same way. So even though we're print first, and then we're expanding online, we're just not going to give our stuff away for free. We got to get paid too, and our advertisers want to be seen, and their advertisements they're much nicer in print than online, and they stay there so.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And to get paid, you got to be relevant, right? And you're staying relevant.
I'm staying relevant, and we're having a fun time. I mean, I like to think, we cut the smarminess out of the journal, out of the stories. So you won't see smarmy in our stories. You'll see a legitimate story. And our reporters know they are not to pretend like they know more than executives. They're going to tell the readers what the executives are doing instead of what they should be doing.
Right. Yeah, reporting, not instructing.
Reporting. Yeah,
right?
Not instructing. So very seldom
and instructing.
Yeah, very seldom you'll see in our publication how-to type of stories because our readers already know how to do it.
Yes.
They just hire a lawyer or an accountant to tell them how to do it.
Yes.
So, but they do want to know who's doing what.
Yes, that's rich information.
Yeah,
very rich information. Well, Peter Brennan of Orange County Business Journal, you've been a delightful guest. You've been an informative guest. It's really been a pleasure to visit with you. I know we'll connect soon, and I want to say goodbye to our audience. Thank you again, Peter. Really appreciate you.
Quite welcome. Happy to be here.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.